Hey everyone, I'm your astrologer Brittany of Ethereal Astrology, taking you to new heights with inspired perspectives that transcend the details. Today, you're watching your astrology horoscope for the collective for the full moon in Pisces, which occurs on Wednesday, August 30th, 2023 at 9:35 p.m. Eastern Time or 6:35 p.m. Pacific Time. Now, what I think is going on here at this full moon in Pisces is that we're getting a lot of sudden and unexpected realizations here that we need to rest, relax, be more compassionate, intuitive and sensitive here and creative in our lives than way more than we previously perhaps thought, imagined, or intended here. That could be a little shocking and hard to put into practice and require some decisions to be made here. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. If you want to hear more about that, please do stay tuned because we're going to hop into it right now. Here. Now, in order to get started, what I like to do first is to just place it on the chart so that you can see what it is that I'm referring to in this video here and follow along with me. So let me do that now. This video is for that full moon in Pisces. As a result, I have adjusted the chart accordingly. I know that because I've got the sun here in the sign of Virgo, 7 degrees, making an exact opposition over here to the moon, 7 degrees Pisces. And when the moon opposes the sun here, or the sun opposes the moon exactly as you see it in this chart, that is what is considered here to be a full moon. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here in this video. What is this about now in a more general sense? Well, full moons are a lot about stepping into things that we are have been working on for quite some time, because that is when the moon is the furthest from the sun. Not only are they about stepping into things we've been working towards for a while, but they're also too about getting some sort of insight, revelation, illumination, perhaps that we did not see before, especially too because that is when the moon is the brightest in the sky here as well. Not only that, but also too sometimes full moons can be about decisions here that need to be made too, because a full moon is a function of an opposition, and oppositions indicate decisions because it's hard to do two opposite things here at once. Okay, what at this full moon are we stepping into or getting insights on and illuminations or having to make some sort of decisions about? Well, that's Pisces in a lot of ways, because that is where the full moon is. What is Pisces about here? Well, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and it is a water sign, and for that reason it does tend to be a sign that is a little bit more restful and relaxing. Here, of course, being the last sign of the zodiac to process a lot of things from all the other signs. So I think that's one of the things that at this full moon we're trying to step more into or get illumination on or make decisions about, is about how we can rest and relax more. That's going on. Hey, not only that, but I need to note as well that in addition to that, Pisces being a water sign correlated to Neptune is also one that is very compassionate, very intuitive here, more connected to the divine or to the other realms here as well. So not only, right, to continue with it, this full moon here in Pisces, are we trying to step into more rest and relaxation that's going on, and to get more insights about that and to make some decisions, but we're trying to step into more compassion for ourselves, for other people, more sensitivity, more connection with our intuition here in the divine, and to make decisions about that. Other things that Pisces is about too is that it is a very creative sign as well, that's very artistic, or might have creative and artistic hobbies, pursuits, things like that. So I think that's also something here that we're trying to step into more as well. Okay, in addition to that, other things that I want to note about Pisces is that it also too is a lot about our inner world, to being a water sign, and about healing that, especially the emotions, the emotional issues that may have happened from the past. So that's another thing trying to do at this full moon: rest, relax, more in touch with intuition, spirit, the divine, compassion, more creative, more artistic, and to do more inner healing here that may be needed of our emotions. Not only that, but Pisces too, being the last sign of the zodiac, is about releasing old things and letting old things go so that eventually a new cycle can start, especially once we get into Aries, the sign after it here. So not only that, but also at this full moon, we're trying to figure out what needs to be released that's no longer serving us anymore in our lives, especially I think an inward state, an inward emotional state here, and things from the past, so that we can move forward. Okay, not only that, but another thing that I want to note about Pisces here as well is that it used to be correlated before Neptune was discovered to Jupiter, which is a lot about wisdom and understanding here. And I think Pisces has a lot to do with that, especially being connected to the divine, to higher realms, being the last sign of the zodiac. The last sign of the zodiac is wiser, more reflective. Here, I think that's another thing that's going on at this full moon. Not only trying to perhaps step into more rest, relaxation, intuition, spirit, compassion, creativity, all of that. Here in a more understanding of our inner world and to release old things that aren't working for us, but to get more full understanding, wisdom here about all of that here and how it's needed so that we can make the better decisions about all of that and move forward. Okay, so that's what I want to say. I think what I want to bring out for now about the main themes of in general about this full moon in Pisces. Maybe to say that again. Here is that this full moon in Pisces, we're trying to step into more rest, relaxation, compassion for ourselves and others, spirituality, intuition, creativity, here, and to understand our inner world better and to release old things that aren't serving us and to get insights and make decisions about all of that so that we can move forward better. Okay, and that's what I want to say there. Now, before I move forward, here to give you more detail about this full moon in particular and what it means and how it's going to play out. For those of you who've been watching me for a while, you all know before I do that, I like to go backwards in time for a minute here before I go forward and into these into the detail. And the reason why I like to go backwards before I go forward is to give you more of the context here of this full moon and of how we got here and of why these themes come up, because the alignments that came before the full moon affect the interpretation a lot here that's going on. So we're going to take a look at that now. And to give you the context here of this full moon, I want to go back quite a bit, because you all have told me that you like it when I do that, to a series of alignments that started the beginning of 2020, right around January to April of 2020. At that time, what occurred is that Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter all came conjunct here towards the later degrees of the sign of Capricorn. Okay, now that is a very rare and uncomfortable alignment. It's very rare because Saturn and Pluto only come conjunct roughly every 35 years and not always with Jupiter there. And it's very uncomfortable because Saturn and Pluto are both malefic planets, which do tend to bring just more challenging things in our experience. And because Jupiter was in the sign of Capricorn at the time, a sign it doesn't like to be in, which really wasn't helping too much. Okay, what was the very rare and difficult thing that was going on there at that time? Well, Saturn in a lot of ways can bring a sense of stuckness, feeling stuck in life. Pluto can also bring a sense of frustration and needing to make big change. Pluto's a planet of change here in order to overcome that, especially in the structures of our lives, and to do it to a larger degree with Jupiter there being the biggest planet. So that's our starting point. January to April of 2020, we realize something in our life we don't like, stuck, that maybe has gone on for 35 years prior, that we now need to make big changes in our life in order to overcome and get unstuck. And I think we started doing that at that time. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which was about 2 years after that. Yes, last year, April of 2022. Okay, in April of 2022, we had a new moon solar eclipse here in the sign of Taurus. Okay, what is that about? New moons are about new beginnings. Solar eclipses superpower that. And Taurus is about fertility, abundance, and in some ways about new life, new growth here that's happening at that time. And so I think what occurred in April of 2022 is that we started to feel like we had changed enough things in our life to overcome all this bad stuff that we didn't like, to be in a different and better experience of life that felt more fertile, more abundant, more workable, more hopeful for us here as we move forward, which was nice. That then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, happening 2 weeks after that, I believe also around April of 2022. And that was here a full moon lunar eclipse in the opposite sign, the sign of Scorpio here on the south node. Now that was a bit more challenging here, sure, because it was a full moon, and sometimes full moons can be a bit harder than new moons, but especially because it was on the south node, which can be definitely a bit more difficult. Okay, and the south node is hard because the south node is really a point of letting things go that are no longer working for us and release, and sometimes it's hard to let things go. So that was a bit of a challenge. And the full moon can bring realization we need to let something go that's not working. What did we, that I need to know as well with the south node can make us feel stuckness. realization that we need to let something go that's not working because all of a sudden now we're feeling stuck. Hey, what is it that we started to realize that we needed to let go that was making us stuck? Well, Scorpio, because that's where the full moon was. Scorpio does have a lot to do with relationships and being too intertwined with them. It also has to do as well with money, and in particular spending money. Not only that, but Scorpio too can be about emotions, especially very deep ones that can be a little uncomfortable, engaging in those here. So I think we started to realize at that full moon that wasn't working for us, especially not in this new abundant chapter of life, and that in this new abundant chapter of life, we needed to stop being too intertwined with people, indulging negative emotions, right? If we're in a better experience of life here and spending all of this money that's going on. Not only did we realize that at that full moon, but because the South Node is connected to the North Node, which was in Taurus, I think we also realized that we needed to adopt a different set of behaviors in order to move forward. And those different set of behaviors were more Taurus behaviors, self-reliant, not on other people, doing it ourselves, saving money, a Taurus thing. Not only that, but also going slower, more stable and secure with better emotions here in our situation and more confidence. That's happening. So that's what occurred then in a better experience of life, but don't have the right habits and perspectives on it. That's keeping us stuck, that we need to change away from spending money, reliance on other people, and intense negative emotions, now more towards self-reliant, saving money, slower, more confident. Okay, I think that was a very significant realization to get in April of 2022, but I need to note, because it was so significant and so important, and I think so foreign to us, I believe it took almost all, pretty much all of last year to fully understand and get through our heads here, especially with Mars going retrograde in Gemini, which is a lot about our mindset here, and Mercury also going retrograde in Capricorn and in January of 2023, this year, which also has to do with our mindset. Mercury and Capricorn in the same spot that Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter came conjunct in 2020. And I think it really took us until after those two things, around January of 2023, for us to get this through our heads and to realize that the new and better chapter in life that we're now in requires a different mindset. More stable, more secure, more thrifty, and self-reliant. Not only do I think it took until January of 2023, but I also think it in January of 2023, when we started to realize that, we also then started to make more changes with relationships, with money, within ourselves, to be more slow, stable, secure, and self-reliant, and to get a few more things in order for this new and better experience of life to begin. Okay, which I thought was very helpful. And because we did that, we then get about 2 months later, it was somewhere in February to March of this year, 2023. And in February to March of this year, we then had two very significant alignments occur. We had both Pluto and Saturn change signs, Pluto into Aquarius and Saturn into Pisces. And when slower moving planets, of which Pluto and Saturn are, change signs, they bring big chapter changes in our lives to turn the page for things to shift here. So that then brought a big chapter change in our life around February to March of this year. What was that chapter change? Well, Pluto went to Aquarius. Aquarius is a lot about freedom here, to create something different, more unique, more authentic, more in alignment to us. And Saturn in Pisces is a lot about releasing the past. Pisces letting old things go so that we can embrace this different experience. Okay, so the beginning of this year, finally, we got new perspective, slow, stable, secure, thrifty, self-reliant, adjusted things to be that way. And that then helped us finally feel like we can embark, new chapter, new adventure that we've been trying to get to since 2020. Here, more freedom without this old stuff bringing us down, which I think was very, very good, especially around April of this year, 2023, when we had a solar eclipse here in the sign of Aries. Okay, but which is the first sign of the zodiac about new beginnings. But even though we're feeling quite good, February, March, and April of this year, new experiences, new beginnings, ready to go as we started to move forward on this new and better experience of life. Now towards Taurus season, the new moon in Taurus in May of 2023, we then started to feel stuck again in this new experience of life with another issue coming up that was very difficult for us when it came to moving forward in this new, different, and better way. What was that issue that started to come come up around that May-June timeframe? Well, I think it had a lot to do with Venus going retrograde here around that time in the sign of Leo. Venus is a lot about receiving and being open to things. Leo is about happiness and joy. And I think we realized at that time that we're stuck and unable to move forward into now this better experience of life here because of another problem, because we were not open to receiving happiness and joy and pleasure, and are blocking good things from coming into it because we didn't maybe feel Venus like we're worthy of it, like we deserve it. And because with Pluto retrograding back into Capricorn around that June timeframe of 2023, because we're still stuck in emergency mode from the past 15 years while Pluto was in Capricorn here, and feeling like we had to work, focus on status and success and all this other stuff. Okay, that was hard, making us still feel stuck and unable to move forward. And because that was a problem and was frustrating us, then last month here around July, a new moon in Cancer, Pluto squared the nodal axis. And in July 2023, we then realized we can't go on like this. We have to make more big changes within ourselves and within our lives, externally with relationships and money, to allow us to be happy, honor our emotions, and to receive better things into our lives that are more in touch with what we're feeling. That was scary, and we did it. Okay, which I think was good. But even though we made big changes just last month here to honor more of our emotions and allow ourselves to be happier and get more in touch with our heart and do what we love, another issue then occurred after that. Okay, right after that, these just never end. And the issue that occurred right after that was Mercury then going retrograde here in the sign of Virgo. And what that was is us realizing, Mercury has to do with the mind, that we have another problem because it's going retrograde. And that the other problem that we have now is that we're stuck in overthinking, Mercury, Virgo, if it's being done in an unhealthy way, which is what's happening here. That we're also stuck in being too perfectionistic and critical, which is what Virgo can do. And that we're also stuck here in overstressing about our situation and working too hard and in feeling guilty and ashamed. And we're not doing all that stuff. Here, that's a remnant of the old chapter of life that still hasn't been fixed, that now needs to be fixed. Okay, and because we recently have realized we got another issue, thinking too much, working too hard, too perfectionistic and critical, now this full moon in Pisces, of which this video is for, we're getting a very significant realization, which is what full moons do. And we're getting a very significant realization here that we need to quit that. Quit overthinking, quit working too hard, quit the guilt and shame. Rest and relax more. We need to rest and relax more. We need to be more compassionate to ourselves and to other people, so we're not being critical of them. Here, we need to be more creative, more spiritual, more intuitive, more go with the flow, and we need to deal with our emotional issues here that are preventing us from resting and relaxing in order for us to move forward and make decisions here in order to do that, in order to bring more things together. Okay? That's it. That's where we are now. Okay? If this is too long, I will cut this down. I have no problem cutting this down. Matter of fact, it might make it easier on me to do that. But that's where we are now. I hope that you all found that useful. Okay, because that's all I'm going to say now about the past context of these, of the past few years, and that was a lot. I'm just going to repeat that very briefly here before I move forward. So let me do that. The past context here of the past few years is that we're finally in a different and better space of life. That's very different than what we experienced for many decades prior to this, but we keep running into problem after problem. And the latest problem that we now have is that we're stuck in overworking, overthinking, being too perfectionistic and critical, feeling guilty and shamed, and all of that. That's preventing us from moving forward. That now needs to be fixed, and that we're getting significant realizations at this time to fix by doing the opposite, resting and relaxing more and being more kind and compassionate here with ourselves and others, and more trusting and surrendered with the divine and our intuition. Okay, and that's that. Because that's what I'm going to say there, I'm now going to move forward to give you more detail about this full moon in particular and the aspects that are happening around it. Okay, so I'm going to do that. But before I do that, I just want to linger, I want to linger again here on the Mercury retrograde in Virgo. I think I want to go back to here and focus on that for a minute before actually talking about the full moon. And I think I want to do that because the last video I did for you all here 2 weeks ago was at that new moon in Leo. And while I did talk about Mercury about to go retrograde in Virgo, it was not retrograde at the time of that new moon in Leo, and I did not really focus on it and what it means. So I just want to, and it's now retrograde, like it's now happening. So I want to go, and I think it's very important coloring the whole full moon, especially with the sun now in Virgo. So I want to go back to that really quickly to give you my more clear thoughts on what that is here to bring things together for you. So I'm going to do that here. Mercury. Okay, retrograde, Mercury retrograde. What is this in Virgo? This is not the best thing here that's going on. And it's not the best thing that's happening because it is a planet, in this case Mercury, that is appearing in the sky to go a direction that's not natural to it here. And that's not really the direction it's going. You know, like retrogrades are an optical illusion in a lot of ways. Okay, so this is not that great. What is not that great about it? Well, when a planet, right, appears to go in a direction that's not natural to it in the sky, it means there's something about both that planet and that sign that it's in that's not being done to the best, highest, or healthiest degree that it needs to be and can be done, and now needs to be reworked or reevaluated in some sort of way to be done in this different, better and higher experience and manifestation. Okay, and the retrograde, it actually going retrograde signifies us becoming more consciously aware of that, more consciously aware here that something's not right and needs to be reworked. What is it that's not right and needs to be reworked? Well, both Mercury and Virgo, because that's where the retrograde is happening, and two, because Mercury and Virgo are correlated, right? Mercury's the ruler of Virgo. Okay, that's not being done right to the healthiest degree. Well, when Virgo and Mercury are not being done to the healthiest degree and are tending more towards an unhealthy manifestation, what does that look like? Well, Virgo is a lot about thinking. When unhealthy, thinking too much, okay, in too practical ways, too logical, we could even say, and in too perfectionistic, you know, like that's the Virgo, too perfectionistic and too critical, being Earth Mercury here, that's happening. Okay, so it can bring a lot of that, critical of ourselves, critical of other people. Not only can Virgo bring that too, but Virgo is about work and fixing things. And when unhealthy, can bring overwork, working too much, working too hard. Here, that is going on also in perfectionistic and critical ways. Not only can it bring that, but to me, Virgo also has a lot to do with guilt and shame. So too does Capricorn, I should note, but a lot does Virgo as well. It can also bring unnecessary guilt and shame when we're not overthinking and working, proving ourselves and all of that other stuff here. So there's some of that. Okay, not only can it bring that, that's unhealthy, but to me, Virgo sometimes can have to do with proving ourselves. You know, we have to work hard to prove ourselves and our worth and our value. So it can also have us stuck as well in too much of that here that's going on that is not helpful, that we're now realizing needs to be redone or reworked in some way. Okay, that's recently happened within the past 2 weeks since my last video. Hey, why is that bad? Maybe let's linger on that for a minute. Why is overthinking, overworking, being too perfectionistic and critical, you know, too logical, guilt and shame, not a good thing? Well, because when you're working too hard or thinking too much, right, you can burn out, or you can overcomplicate the matter or the situation here that's going on. And not leave room, right, for things to flow here. And you can make yourself feel bad, right, guilty and ashamed for no reason here that's happening. So I think that's why that's a bit of a negative thing here. Not only is that why that's a bit of a negative thing here, but I also want to note one other thought here as well, is that I think this issue with us overworking, overthinking here, being too critical, perfectionistic, guilty and ashamed, feeling like we have to prove ourselves, is the remnant from Pluto and Capricorn over the course of the past 15 years, where it spent most of it. And Pluto and Capricorn, in my opinion, has brought experiences in our life where we felt like, or where we've become too focused on career, status, success, reputation, or like we've always had to plan for emergency mode, right? And when you always feel like an emergency is about to happen and you have to appear to be successful, right? That's when you start to overthink. You know, oh, okay, well, I don't want an emergency to happen. I have to overthink, I have to overwork. Oh, I really want to appear successful, so I have to overdo some of the working to prove myself. You know, that's where they kind of come together, both of which we're trying to get rid of, right? With Pluto about to leave Capricorn, we're trying to get rid of this emergency mode feeling, especially if we're coming into a different and better experience of life here at this time. So that's what I want you to know here about the Mercury retrograde in Virgo, is that at this time, setting the stage for this full moon here in Pisces, is that we are, I think, starting to consciously realize that we're thinking too hard, working too much in perfectionistic and critical ways. That's going on here, and feeling guilty and ashamed about it all and feeling like we need to prove ourselves, which is not good because it's keeping us stuck in burnout and in stress and in anxiety here and not allowing us to be in the moment, and is really a remnant of negative experiences, trauma from the past 15 years in which we felt like we always had to be on to prove ourselves and prepare for an emergency and be a certain way that now is not good here and needs to be reworked. Okay, that then leads me now to actually the full moon. I'm going to come back to here. Okay, the full moon here is in Pisces, opposite the sun here in Virgo. Okay, which we talked about earlier in this video, right? Full moon's about stepping into things. Pisces, the opposite of Virgo. Do you see? Mercury's retrograde in Virgo. Pisces is the opposite of Virgo. And the opposite of thinking, working, is resting, is relaxing, is doing nothing, is being creative, is going with the flow, is being in touch with intuition here and being compassionate to yourself. So to put these things together now, right, do you understand? What's happening at this time is that we're still stuck in overworking, overthinking, guilt and shame, proving ourselves, being too critical of ourselves and others, okay? Because somewhere over the course of the past 15 years, we've gotten stuck in emergency mode, this trauma that something bad is always going to happen to ourselves and that we have to work ourselves up the ladder, which is not good for us. Not good for us because it's keeping us burnt out. It's keeping us burnt out and overstressed and anxious and not allowing to be in the moment and be in the present and to feel things that's going on here that's very hard that now needs to be fixed. And we're getting a significant realization at this full moon in Pisces. Realization that in order to fix this problem, overcritical, too much work, too much thinking, we need to go in the exact opposite direction. The exact opposite direction and do the exact opposite things in order to fix it, because opposites bring each other into balance, and that the opposite thing we need to do in order to fix the overworking and thinking is to rest and relax more and to be more compassionate to ourselves and others and more creative, more spiritual, more intuitive, more go with the flow, and to deal with the inner stuff, to deal with the inner issues, core issues that are preventing all of that from coming together. Okay. Not only that, but I want to go to two other things here before I come back to the full moon. Another thing I want to go to is Uranus and Jupiter. Okay, because Uranus, a day or so before this full moon, went retrograde in the sign of Taurus, and Jupiter within the next week or so is also about to go retrograde as well, both in the sign of Taurus here. So I want to talk about this for a minute as well. What is that about? Uranus, let's start there since it's already gone retrograde. When a planet goes retrograde, another possible interpretation of a retrograde planet is that it can bring something to light about that sign, perhaps that in that planet that we didn't see before here, that we need to see and really focus on in order to do it better, right? The retrograde, do it differently, do it better here. And Uranus has a lot to do with our higher mind, insights from a higher, more divine place. And it can also bring them suddenly and unexpectedly with the Uranus influence. Okay, and these are insights from a higher, more divine place, suddenly and unexpectedly, to do more Taurus or to do Taurus differently and better. What is Taurus about? Well, I'm going to say Taurus is in some ways similar to Pisces, right? Because they sextile, and signs that sextile are complementary. They complement each other. Okay, and in some of the ways that Taurus is similar to Pisces is that Taurus can be a little bit more restful and relaxed as well, because it is ruled by Venus, which is a slower sign, and it does have the stereotype as being lazy, right? Restful, lazy, which to me is a good thing at this point in the astrology. We need to be more lazy. Okay, so this is an more not just a little realization, a big realization at this full moon, perhaps unexpectedly, at just how important it is for us to take it easy and to rest and relax here and to chill out and to let ourselves be lazy here. That's going on. Okay, not only that, but other things perhaps that I can mention here about Taurus as well. Taurus is a lot about simplifying, going back to basics, which is very complementary to the resting and relaxing thing. We're also realizing as well that maybe we need to simplify and go back to basics, that we're making things more complicated than they really are, and that we don't need as much as we think we need here. That's going on. Not only that, but Taurus is a lot about the things you already have at your disposal. So not only could we be unexpected, be realizing I need to rest and relax a lot here, but that we're making things too complicated, more so than they really are, but that we already have everything we need at our disposal. We don't need a lot more stuff. Like, we already have what we need and we're in a good place, and we just gotta figure that out. Okay, not only that, but Taurus as well is a lot about confidence in yourself and who you are and what you got going on here, and that you're going to be fine. So we're also realizing unexpectedly as well, not only that the resting and relaxing is huge, it's huge. We need to do a lot more of that than we have been doing here, and that we are in a better place than we think with everything that we need, and that we need to simplify and go back to basics and use what we have, but that we need to be more confident in ourselves and in our abilities here, and stop looking outside and elsewhere for all this stuff, and to realize that we already have like abundance within with here the Taurus influence that's going on. The Jupiter too, about to go retrograde, also maximizing that in the same spot, almost not quite in a conjunction with Uranus here, but the Jupiter too, maximizing that even bigger and more, because Jupiter is the biggest planet here, bringing more wisdom. Jupiter understanding that yes, big relaxation, ease, simplicity, confidence needed more than ever, at this time, in order for us to move forward and combat these other problems that it is that we may be having. Okay. The other thing that I want to note here about this is I personally do like this. I like the full moon in Pisces, and I think that the Jupiter and the Uranus here going retrograde are a positive thing. But even though it is a positive thing here, I do need to note it can be a bit startling, because again, retrogrades can be a little bit difficult with the Jupiter and Uranus, and also too because it's Uranus, right? And Uranus is the great awakener. Yes, it brings great insights from our higher mind that maybe we didn't see before. But when something comes into our conscious awareness that we didn't see before, it can startle us. It can startle us in a lot of ways. So even though I like this big realization here, and we need to stop overworking and stressing, that we need to rest and relax more and simplify and be more confident and use what we have, there's something about it that can be startling to us. Or maybe I need to use another word, triggering to us, and bring anxiety. Another keyword for Uranus can bring anxiety and restlessness. What do you mean? Not work, not do stuff, just do nothing, just rest and relax and do nothing and use what I have. I don't know about this. This doesn't feel right. This makes me feel nervous, anxious, out of my comfort zone. I'm not used to this. I feel like, maybe to use a Pisces term, since this is the full moon in Pisces, I feel like a fish out of water now. How do I go about life if I'm just gonna not do much, like to do like a little, like trust that I have enough? I don't know. Here that can be a bit hard. Not only that, but another thing that I want to note too here about this, I've interpreted the Jupiter Uranus retrograde in Taurus as more of an internal insight, and I do believe it is. I do believe it is internal, and I believe that that's the real journey in life. Like, the real journey in life is an internal journey here, but I do need to note this can also bring external situations with the Uranus, unexpected external situations that could feel shocking here, with money in particular with the Taurus, but potentially with the relationships here as well, that could occur too. And this can bring unexpected shocks with money and relationships, really to get you more in that direction, to get you more to be confident in yourself and to rest and relax and to simplify and to make things easier for you at this time, even if it might feel a little bit uncomfortable here in the process. Okay, so that's maybe what I want you to know here, maybe to back up, to bring that together before I add two more things in this video here, or two or three, right? What's going on at this full moon in Pisces here is that we're realizing more and more that we're stuck in overthinking, overworking, being too critical and perfectionistic here, feeling like we have to prove ourselves, and guilt and shame when we're not, really because of unresolved trauma from the past 15 years in which bad things have happened and we've been stuck in emergency mode, feeling like we have to focus on success and status here. That's not good for us, because it's keeping us anxious and overwhelmed and burnt out and nervous and all of that we now have to fix. Okay, not only is that what's going on here at this full moon, but we're getting a very significant realization, perhaps suddenly and unexpectedly, that the way to fix this problem, overworking and thinking, is to go in the exact opposite direction of the overworking and thinking, and do the exact opposite things, which is to not overwork and overthink, but to rest and relax, and to do it to a more extreme degree, and to be more compassionate and more spiritual and more intuitive towards ourselves and others, and to go more with the flow, and to also as well simplify our situation, because maybe we're making it too complicated, and be more confident in ourselves and realize that we're exactly where we need to be, and that we have everything here at our disposal, which could come with some unexpected events to help you get that realization here, and is good, but could feel a little bit shocking. and uncomfortable and make you anxious and nervous and feel like a fish out of water here in the process. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which is going to be back to that full moon in Pisces, which is, of course, a full moon in itself, but also conjunct Saturn. Okay, what I want to talk about there. What is that about? Well, Saturn, okay, can bring restriction and blockages. Here, that's one of its potential manifestations, especially by hard aspect, which sometimes a conjunction can be considered as. Okay, blockage here, and it's in Pisces, and Pisces has to do with releasing old habits, old things. It also has to do with understanding our inner world. So this can create, once we get this realization, this significant realization of like, oh, I need to go in the exact opposite direction, rest and relax, be more creative, more at ease. It can create this experience of like, I want to say the strong arm of like, but I'm not ready. I don't want to, I know that I need to rest, relax here and do all this other stuff, but I'm not ready. I don't feel ready. It feels difficult. I feel stuck. I don't know how to do it here. And my emotions are doing weird things, are still in a weird place, like not really where they might need to be in order for that to occur. That can have us almost like rejecting it a little bit here. That can also be hard, making us feel stuck, Saturn stuck, and not able to fully work with these insights that we're getting and bring them together here. Okay, that's happening. That can be a bit hard. Okay? So there's this sense of stuckness. I know, right? We're getting the sense of I know that I probably need to rest and not probably, I know that I definitely, with the Uranus retrograde, I know that I definitely need to rest and relax more, be compassionate, creative, spiritual, intuitive, simplify, confident, etc. But it's so different than what I'm used to. I'm anxious and nervous and I want to push it away. I'm not ready to deal with this yet. I still have old habits and patterns, Pisces, that I'm not ready yet to get rid of. Perhaps that still I don't know how to handle. You're still kind of playing out. Okay, stuck, making us feel stuck. Not only that, but another indicator of us feeling stuck as well, I want to talk about another alignment, is the fact that this full moon in Pisces here is also making a quincunx to Mars, which recently entered the sign of Libra here, both of which are also difficult. A quincunx is a hard aspect as well between two planets and signs that just don't see eye to eye. And this is difficult too because Mars is now in Libra, which is a sign that it doesn't like to be in and therefore doesn't function that well in. What is the difficulty here? Mars is the planet of action, right? It's a planet of doing things and doing things more easily, more instinctually here in our experience. And when it's in Libra, a sign it doesn't like to be in, it hesitates to do things. It hesitates to do things. It doesn't do things. It waits to do things. It's scared to do things. It thinks back with the overthinking, with it being an air sign, overthinks things here. That's going on as well, especially too with the South Node in Libra here at this time too. So another indicator that, yeah, we've got a big insights here at this full moon, like rest, relax, compassionate, be creative, written big letters on the wall here, but out of our comfort zone, anxious and nervous here, and don't know what to do with it, and not ready, really not ready, I think, to accept it emotionally, and maybe rejecting it here and feeling stuck and just not able to put it into action here, and still hesitating, waiting, or staying stuck in overthinking here. That is hard. Okay. Why? Maybe now, why are we still hesitating and waiting, I think, to put this stuff into action? I think it's a few reasons here. I think one of the reasons with the Saturn and Pisces is because we're still not dealing with the root cause of the emotional issue, right? Pisces about our emotions, Saturn can block that. So I think the reason why we're hesitating to act, to rest and relax and be more creative and intuitive and confident and simplify and all of that is because I think we still haven't gone deep enough into the emotional root causes, especially with Pluto too at the later degrees of Capricorn, about why we feel guilty and ashamed for not overworking or for resting. Like, we still haven't gone deep enough here, and I think are still skimming the surface a little bit. That's going on. I think another reason why we're not able to fully act on these insights as well is not only because we're not really going deep enough to heal the real root cause of the overworking and the overthinking and the guilt and shame and all of that, but I think too it's probably also maybe a little bit because of like fear, maybe with the Mars and Libra, lacking courage, a little bit of fear to do something different than we've always done, especially if it's out of our comfort zone here. And also too because we're just stuck in old habits and patterns, and old habits and patterns are hard to break. And the old habit and pattern is of thinking too much, right? Thinking too much, because resting and relaxing, do you understand? Resting and relaxing and being creative, you shouldn't have to think about. If you're resting and relaxing, there's no thinking, like what thinking is involved? There's no thinking, there's no hesitation. You just be it. You just are it. You just allow it to happen. So we're struggling to really act on these insights to rest and relax here and are feeling stuck because we're not really dealing deeply enough with the emotional root cause of why all these issues are manifesting here, and because we're a little afraid to do things different and just stuck in the overthinking when we shouldn't have to overthink resting, relaxing, being at ease. Okay, so let me back that up and then I'm going to give you the advice here, okay? What's going on at this full moon here, Pisces? We're realizing more and more that we're stuck in overthinking, overworking, being too perfectionistic and critical, and feeling like we have to prove ourselves and feeling guilty and ashamed, and we're not doing that, which is really the remnant of trauma from the past 15 years and in which things went wrong in our lives here, and we felt like we had to ignore our emotions. That is no longer working for us and needs to be reworked, and is no longer working for us because it's making us feel stressed and anxious and burn out and not be in the present moment. And what we're realizing at this full moon in Pisces, of which this video is for, is that the way to correct the overworking and thinking is to go in the exact opposite direction, and to do the exact opposite things of all of that to a big degree, which may come suddenly and unexpectedly here. And the exact opposite direction is to rest and relax, be more creative, spiritual, compassionate, intuitive, go with the flow, and to be more confident in ourselves, and to simplify and to trust more that we have everything that we need at our disposal here. And I think that's a very good realization. But even though that's a very good realization, I think it's triggering us and shaking us to our core a little bit, because it's not what we're used to, making us feel like a fish out of water and very anxious and nervous. And because it's shaking us to our core and we're not what we're used to, and we're making us feel anxious and nervous, we're giving it the strong arm. We're pushing it away. We're pushing it away and not fully this resting and relaxing here, and not fully able to do it, to fully embody the resting and the relaxing and the creativity and ease, making us feel stuck. And the reason why we're not able to fully embody it here is because we're not dealing deeply with the emotional root cause and healing that created the guilt and shame and the feeling like we have to prove ourselves to begin with here. And because we're afraid, and because old habits die hard, and we're still a little stuck in the overthinking that's hard to get rid of here, when this new way of life just requires us to just be and enjoy it here. That's going on, okay? Because that's happening right now. The last part here I'm going to give you in this video is advice. What is the advice? Saturn. Let's go back to Saturn here, making a conjunction with the full moon. Saturn is a lot about decisions and commitment. Maybe I'll give the commitment. Yeah, both. They're both together. Decisions and commitment here. And remember, a full moon too is about decisions as well, being a function of an opposition and commitment too. What does that mean? Well, I think what the advice is that I want to give you is that you need to make a decision to commit, Saturn, to Pisces, to doing the inner soul searching about why you feel bad resting. Why you feel bad resting. Why does resting and relaxing feel guilty and shameful for you? Like why is that? And to heal that, why do you feel like you always need to be working? Why do you feel like you always need to be on? Why do you feel like you're not worthy if you're not busy? Why do you feel like there's something wrong if you're doing nothing, right? You need to decide to commit to do more of the soul searching and to heal more of the root causes here of why resting and relaxing and being creative and intuitive is problematic for you, and working with what you have. Not only do you need to make a decision, I think, to commit to doing the inner soul searching for that as well, but to figuring out, Saturn can also be about, commitment to figuring out how to rest and relax more, and to bringing more rest and relaxation and creativity and intuition into your life, even if it doesn't feel the most comfortable and the most natural for you to do, because that's the nature of Saturn. Saturn says, I don't care if you feel comfortable doing it. This is what needs to happen here. So the advice Decide to commit to healing the real emotional issues making you feel guilty and ashamed for resting and relaxing, and be creative, spiritual, and intuitive here, and all of that other stuff that's going on. And not only to heal that issue, but at the same time or around the time you're doing it, to also commit anyways, whether it feels comfortable or not, to resting and relaxing more. Because it doesn't have to feel comfortable for it to be good for you and for it to be what you need to do. And because that's what's going to help bring the situation here into balance that it is that you need. Okay. That's going on. Okay. To commit to do it. And because the more, another thought I want to say, because the more you commit to doing something, the easier it gets, right? The more you say, look, this doesn't feel good, but I know it's in my best interest, I'm going to do it anyways. And the more you do it and do it, the easier it's going to get, even though it's probably going to take us another, few weeks, if I can be honest, to like fully understand that and feel at ease with it that's going on. Okay. So that's what I want to say there, because that's now it that I'm going to say in terms of the aspects. I'm just going to repeat that one last time here without the jargon, so you can get a better idea of what's going on. So let me do that now. What I think is going on here at this full moon in Pisces is that we are becoming more and more consciously aware here that we have a challenge, which is that we are thinking too much and too perfectionistic in critical ways, working too hard in our situation, feeling like we have to prove ourselves and being guilty and ashamed, and we're not doing that here, which is really the remnant of trauma from the past 15 years in which life was hard and we felt like we had to appear a certain way. Here, that's not good for us, making us burnt out, anxious, and nervous, that we now need to fix and resolve. Hey, not only are we realizing that more and more at this full moon in Pisces, but we're also realizing, perhaps unexpectedly in a very big way, that the way to fix this issue here with the overworking and the overthinking is to go in the exact opposite direction to a very large degree here in order to bring this into balance. And that the opposite direction of overworking and overthinking here is to rest and relax to a more extreme degree, be kinder, compassionate, more in tune with our intuition here, and also be more confident in ourselves, and to work more with what we have and realize we already have everything we need at our disposal. And that's a very good and beautiful realization to help us fix a lot of things in our life and bring things back into balance. But even though it's a beautiful realization, it's so different than what we're used to doing, the resting and relaxing, that it's making us feel really triggered and uncomfortable, like a fish out of water here that's going on, and back into being anxious and nervous here. That's a challenge because we're not used to doing it. And not only is it making us feel a fish out of water and anxious and nervous, but it's also making us push away these insights to rest and relax and want to keep them at a distance here that's going on, and not deal with them, and not feel ready to handle them here as well. That can make us feel stuck and unable to fully act on these insights that we're getting to rest and relax in a tangible way and improve our lives here. That can be quite hard. And the reason why we're given these insights the strong arm and not putting them into action here and kind of pushing them away, which is keeping us stuck, I think, is because we're not really healing the real root cause of like why we feel guilty and ashamed for resting and relaxing, or feel like we need to prove ourselves, and are not going deep enough into our emotions here in order to really do that to the extent that it is that we need here. And because it's just different, right? It's just different from what we're used to, and old habits die hard, and we're still kind of stuck in the overthinking here when resting and relaxing is easy and you shouldn't have to overthink. You should just be it. Okay, and that's going on. And because that's what's happening, I'm going to give you some advice here in this video. And the advice for this full moon is for you to make a conscious choice, a conscious decision to commit to understanding your emotions and why you feel guilty and ashamed for resting and relaxing, or why you have resistance to that, and being creative and compassionate and more fully healing that emotionally here in whatever way that it is that you need. Not only is that the advice as well, but the advice too is not only to commit, make a conscious choice to commit to healing the real emotional issue and cause preventing you from resting and relaxing, but to make a bunch of small decisions or choices to rest and relax anyways, even if it doesn't feel comfortable, because that's what needs to happen in your situation. And because the more that you do it, the easier it's going to get, even if it won't happen, even if it won't feel fully easy until a few more weeks here after this that's going on. Okay. And that's it. Okay. I don't really have any extra notes. A lot of times at this point in the video, I like to add like extra thoughts and stuff. I don't really have any to add. I think, to be honest, like I covered it. I covered every extra thought I wanted to say and all of that other stuff. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go into your inside degrees and take a look at that. Let me bring those up on the screen. The inside degrees were not written by me. They were written by someone else named Elias Lonsdale, who channeled the meanings of each of the degrees from spirit. However, I really appreciate his work, Elias Lonsdale, what he did, and find it relevant many times. So I like to look at that here and to give you just another perspective. Right, the full moon in Pisces is at 7 degrees Pisces, but I do believe that the degree before, of, and after can all be relevant because these planets are in motion. You know, even though the full moon is at 7 degrees, it was at 6 degrees an hour before it, you know, so they're all in motion here. And so that's why I think the ones around it can be relevant. The one I actually happen to like the best too is 6 degrees, the degree before the full moon in Pisces. So we're going to look at that one here first. You can listen to me read it. You can pause the screen and read it, whatever you like to do. But here we are, 6 degrees Pisces. You are on the exquisite paradoxical edge between the deep inner and the ceremonial outer. Let's stop there for a minute. The deep inner to me is more Pisces, right? And this is a degree for Pisces because Pisces is a water sign. Water signs are more internal, more emotional, more spiritual. And then it says the ceremonial outer, and the ceremonial outer to me is more Virgo, I have to say, because Virgo is an earth sign. Earth signs deal with more practical matters here too. And because the nature of Virgo, right, is to fix, is to work. And that can be kind of ceremonial in a way, kind of ritualistic, right? A ceremony can be a ritual, something you do. I have to constantly do this thing that's like a ceremony to make sure the outer looks good. The outer's taken care of. It's healthy. So I think I'm already getting here from this degree that there is a push and pull between two kind of opposites, the inner world needing attention, you know, and needing to be healed and worked through, and us stuck in habit from the outer world, you know, habit from the outer world. And I think that's another thing I want to pull out. Ceremonial, you know, the ceremonies can be very beautiful. Okay, I understand that. But even though ceremonies can be very beautiful, there is a point when ceremonies can just become going through the emotions. I'm not doing it because I really want to do it. I'm just doing it because like this is a thing that we've always done at this time here. So I think there's another thought that I want to say is that not only is this first sentence of this degree giving me the dichotomy between the Pisces and the Virgo of like, I want to heal the inner and do that, but there's a lot of things going on in the outer world as well. But that the stuff going on in the outer world seems more ceremonial, not things you really have to do, not things you really have to do, just things you think you have to do, you know. And maybe that's another thought to pull out here that's going on, because that may be another resistance while I'm on it that I didn't mention earlier in this video that maybe some of you are having. That may be another resistance that some of you are having to resting and relaxing. Because some of you may be thinking, I can't rest and relax. I have this to do. I have XYZ to do. I have to wash the dishes. I have to feed the kids. I have to wash my clothes. I have to make my bed. I have to do this for work. You know, maybe there's a lot of you that are thinking that now. Like, I can't rest and relax. It's not because of some inner issue. It's because literally I have a lot of things to do. And I'm getting a sense here with the ceremonial, the word ceremonial, is that some of you may think you have a lot of things to do and you don't really have to do them. They're just things you think you need to do and not things you actually have to do. You know, what would happen if you didn't wash dishes for a day? You know, what would happen if you didn't wash your clothes for a week? Would that be the worst thing in the world? I mean, probably not, you know. Okay, so you need to make dinner for the family, right? All right, well, today, for the next week, you know, you don't make these elaborate dinners. You just make something quick. Like, what is wrong with that? You know, so I think that there's another thought here. There's a conflict at this full moon between the inner world needing attention, needing to be healed, and the outer world where there's stuff to do and take care of. But even though there's that tension, the stuff in the outer world that we need to take care of, many of us don't actually need to take care of, or need to take care of right away, or need to take care of in a particular kind of way. You can take care of it in an easier way here that's going on, and you might need to be aware of that. A lot of you might need to be aware that a lot of the things you think you have to do, you really don't have to do. You just think you have to do them. It like you just made it just like in your mind. that's an illusion, right? And that's a Mercury retrograde thing. Mercury is retrograde. Mercury mind retrograde is an optical illusion. Like planets don't actually move backwards. It's an optical illusion. It looks different than what it actually is. So I think that there's the thought here for some of you. Like, this is an inner issue preventing you from resting and relaxing. It is not an external issue preventing you from resting and relaxing. The external is in your mind. You can arrange, you can work with that. The external you can work with to make it easier so that it's not as stressful, especially with the full moon in Pisces, a mutable sign. You can adjust it, it's workable. Sun in Virgo, mutable sign. Mercury, you can adjust it, okay? This is not an external thing stopping you from, it's an internal thing that's stopping you from resting, relaxing in your internal perspective. And that's where the work needs to be done here. A lot of this other stuff you don't really need to do if you really thought about it, or need to do in the way you're doing it, or need to do right away. Okay, let's move on. It says next, living between worlds and destiny forged to satisfy both, the inward part predominates. So the next two sentences here indicate to me that, right, we have the inner crying out to be helped and healed, and the outer world that's busy with all the stuff we think we need to do that we really don't. And we want to do both. We want to do both. We want to satisfy both. I want to heal the inner world, and I want to do the external stuff too, but it's the inner world that's most important. And the next thought that came to me while I was reading that is sometimes doing two things at once is not the best strategy. Okay, right? And maybe that's part of the Virgo. You know, the Virgo can want to fix stuff. I got a lot of stuff to fix. I got to stay busy. Let me do 5 things at once, 5 things at once, right? And Virgo is a feminine sign being symbolized by the Virgin, like a woman, right? Doing everything at once, doing 500 things at once. It can be doing a lot of these things at once here. And sometimes doing a lot of things at once is not good because it keeps us stuck in overwork, right? Doing all this stuff, overthinking, mind going in all these different directions. And because it splits our attention between what needs to be happening, where we don't fully do anything fully present, and I think that's the thought that I want to get at. We at this full moon in Pisces, I think, want to try to do both. Like, okay, I'll do the outer and I'll work and take care of that. At the same time, I'm going to do the inner world and try to focus on the inner. And I'm getting a sense that doing both, those two things in particular at once, is not helpful, because that's going to make us do neither, right? If I'm busy and I got stuff to do, but I also want to relax, and I also need, how are you going to do both of those at the same time? And if you do try to do both of those at the same time, you're not going to do any well. You're going to rest and relax 15 minutes and then, gotta go, got something else here. It's going to be hard. Okay. Not only is that what I get from that next line here, is that some of you are going to try to do halvesies, compromise, especially with Mars and Libra. I'm going to try to do halvesies, compromise, a little bit of work here, a little bit of rest there, which is not going to work, right? Because you're not going to fully devote the time and attention that you really need to either in order to do what needs to be done here. But in this inside degree also indicates to me that it's the inward part that needs to be focused on first. You can't do both inward and outer, rest and relax and work at the same time, because you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to do things halfway and not make any real progress. You have to focus on one, and the one you need to focus on is the inner world, which is the advice that I gave you, earlier in this video. So I think there's that to keep in mind here. Okay, let's read on. It says, you are working hard on inner levels to master advanced initiatory streams, and to do so the ancient, the hard way. What do I get from that sentence? Obviously, you may get something different and take whatever comes to you. But what I'm getting from this sentence is the hard way. A lot of you are going to try to do things the hard way when there's an easier way. And what is the hard way? The hard way is you thinking that you have to do all of these things that you really don't have to be doing here, and to try to do halvesies, a little bit here, a little bit there, when you really just need to be going all in on something. And I think that's another thought that just came to me that I want to add here. Sometimes when you do halvesies, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, it takes longer. It takes more weeks and months to do something than if you just focused on something and knocked it out, right? Do you understand? Like, there's some times in life where you're like, I'll just do a little bit here, a little bit there, and then 6 months later, you're still not done. But if you just took a week to focus on what you needed to focus on and to go all in on that, then you would be fine. Then it would be fine, and you would knocked it out in a week, and then all of a sudden you're back. So I think that there's another thought here. I think it's going to take us a little more than a week. I mean, it's going to take us like a month and a half or so, but there's another thought here. Some of you are going to try to take the hard way out and still stay stuck in this overworking and overthinking and forcing yourself into that and in trying to do halvesies, when really if you just focused more on the inner work for say the next like month and a half, like 6 weeks or whatever, till like the full moon in Aries. Yeah, like right around there. I think we're gonna need like solar eclipse in Libra. If you can just focus on the inner work till the solar eclipse in Libra, I think that's another 6 weeks from now here, then you would be fine and you would deal with this actually quicker and you would be in a better spot faster than if you try to do little by little, because if you just do little by little, you're going to need until next year to figure things out, So I think there's also another thought here. Okay, it says the outward aspect involves being an official representative of many things, most of them no longer recognized in mass culture. I don't have anything to say about this sentence in particular other than official. Official stands out to me, right? Ceremony, official. Like there's this thought that we have to like be something, do something that like is official that we like really don't need to do. I'm getting more there, okay? Yet this matters little. The task at hand is to bring forth a ceremonial version of what lives within. There are poignant, tragic, and bittersweet undertones to this pathway, and it requires a proud demeanor, often misunderstood or tuned into something completely different from what is intended. Okay, so another thought that I'm having here, because it says the task is to bring forth the ceremonial version, and the way that I'm interpreting it, because when I do astrology, obviously it's like an intuitive science. So I use a lot of my my intuition when it comes to this stuff. And I think the way that ceremonial version hit me is there's a need to bring the meaning back into the ceremony. There's a lot of things that we do on the day to day, right? Busy, gotta work, gotta get done. But I think they've lost their meaning over time. There's a lot of things we're doing that we don't really need to do, really don't want to do. And so I think another part of this full moon here is to allow ourselves enough time to fully rest and relax and honor that and to deal and heal those emotional issues more fully, because doing that is going to help us eventually, say around the solar eclipse in Libra, come back to doing things externally in our environment, but in a more true way, a more heartfelt way with more meaning. Because ceremonies shouldn't just be about going through the motions, they should be about something that has real purpose and value, all of that. So I think that us resting and relaxing, the ultimate goal a few weeks from now is for us to bring the meaning back into life and the heart back into our daily routines, so that everything that we're doing is a prayer, is a prayer, maybe to say it that way, right? Because Virgo, the Virgin Mary, right? Prayer, it can be, everything is a prayer. Especially with the first quarter moon being in Sagittarius, a week ago, and we're going to have another first quarter moon in Sagittarius about religion. I think there needs to be more of that, okay? It says you simply must hang in there, hold this focus, and sustain the inner work and the outer style, because this is the way it is. There is nobody else to do it, and when you bear a thin thread... Arrow, please be quiet. And when you bear a thin thread from ancient to future, that thread determines everything and claims your allegiance down to your toes. Yeah, so, I think here it says, sustain the inner work and the outer style. I think that what this means to me is that at the end of the day, a lot of you are going to try to do both still. A lot of you are going to try to do both, to do the outer at the same time. And it's just going to prolong the process a little bit more. It's already going to take us like till the solar eclipse in Libra. So I'm getting a sense of that here from this. And it's not like, and it's not like do nothing, maybe there's another thought that I'm having here as well, even though I think a big part of the intuitive interpretation I'm giving you from this inside degree is that you need to focus more on your resting and on relaxing and on doing that more fully and healing the emotional issues. That doesn't mean do nothing that needs to be done throughout the day. Like there's still things that we kind of need to do to take care of ourselves and our bodies. Like do that, like a little bit of it, just don't get caught up in that here as well. So I think that those are my thoughts that I was getting here from this degree. The inner world needs to rest and relax and needs healing, but the outer world, there's a lot of stuff that we think we need to do that we really don't need to do. We just think we do. that's distracting us, and that's hard, splitting us between these two different areas and making it hard for us to really accomplish anything or do any real healing that needs to be done. And because of that, we really just need to go all in on the emotions and to heal the blockages here that's going on, because that's going to help us bring more meaning back to our routine and see every day and everything we do is like a sacred practice. But even though that's what needs to happen, we may not want to go all in on the emotion here and the healing, because we may still be stuck in old habits and patterns, and because there are still some little tiny things that need to be done, which sure need to be taken care of. We just need to not get lost in those. Okay. Okay, so I think that's what I get from that here. Let's read Pisces 7. I think this is the last one I'm going to read. I don't know if I really felt Pisces 8. It says, spirit is well preserved from becoming untrue. It is held within its own matrix and granted a pure and wonderfully veiled atmosphere and feeling tone and sphere to stay within. From this place, spirit can empower itself to behold, to commune, to remember, and to conceive. So the first thing that I get from this is that there is something going on inside us emotionally and within our connection to spirit that is helpful, and that if we focus on the inner world, that there are a lot of good things that can come from it. Okay, so that this is to me, it's like a positive note here, is that if we can focus on the inner world, there's going to be a lot of inner unfoldings here about yourself and who you are, and insights about that can deepen your understanding of yourself and your connection to spirit than what you may have seen before. Okay, it reads on, you are given what you need and especially granted time and grace to be ushered through the world in the guided tour that leads only to the temples and marvels that are here. I like the thought, you are given what you need, in this inside degree, because that to me goes more with the Uranus retrograde in Taurus. Taurus is a lot about what you need, and I think there is that here. Because some of you may be worried, I can't stop working because then I'm not going to have what I need. I'm not going to have all this stuff. And I think the message a lot from this horoscope and this inside degree is like, no, you have what you need. Like, whether you think you do or not is a different story, but you have everything really that you need in order to bring everything together. And not only that you have everything that you need, but maybe I'll even go so far, especially with Pisces being about the divine, that you are divinely protected. I think there's another message here that if you just rest and relax, right, and stop doing as much stuff that you're doing, not only is there going to be a great inner unfolding that's really going to emerge and be helpful for you, but that you're going to be divinely protected. You're going to be okay. You're going to have everything you need in the process. Maybe you won't have above and beyond, but if you don't work for a few days and do all this crazy stuff, you're going to have just what you need, which is all you need, in order to make things come together and to just trust here that can occur. Okay, even if look at the next line, however all of this happens deep inside, even if you can't see it yet, to just trust and have faith with the Pisces, everything's going to work out, even if you can't see it yet, or even if it doesn't look like it. The outside situation may belie the inward experience. Okay. But here, what seems in this moment is as nothing, and what is really there between the lines and through the cracks is everything. Another thought that I have here, remember with what I just said with this last sentence, is that some of us may be afraid to rest and relax because we may feel like, well, then I'm not going to have what I need, right? I need to work in order to get at what I need. And the message, right, is that the spirit is going to be with you and you're going to be divinely protected and you have what you need here. But I think another message that I'm getting through this, right, of like, things are not really what they seem, is that some of you may feel like by resting and relaxing, you're doing nothing. You're just doing nothing, and like nothing is happening in your life. And I also wanted to say too, that is an optical illusion with the Mercury retrograde, that by you resting and relaxing, a lot of things actually are happening here. You just can't see it. What are the good things that are happening by you resting and relaxing? I think the good things that are happening by you resting and relaxing is healing. There's a lot of healing going on underneath the surface, because sometimes resting helps us do that. Not only is healing happening, but I think the resting and relaxing is also giving space for the divine, because Pisces is also about spirit to kind of rearrange things on our behalf. Sometimes it's hard for the divine to do things to help us if we're doing things. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's hard for the divine to help us improve our situation if we're doing everything, if there's too many cooks in the kitchen. You know what I mean? I'm trying to cook dinner at the same time you're trying to cook dinner. They're two different meals. Like, what's going on? You know, so I think that there's another thought here. By you resting and relaxing, some of you may not want to do it because it may feel like I'm doing nothing, when really that's not true. Something is happening, a lot of emotional healing and spirit working on your behalf here, that you're giving the space in order for that to occur. Okay. This is a domain set apart for special purposes, projects, and endeavors, and is the perfect retreat for one who wishes to remain in touch with the living spirit, who wishes never to forget what it is that stands under the phenomenal world and keeps the eternal flame burning without a flicker. Yeah, we got to bring more of the meaning into life. It's not just going through the emotions, it's we feel connected to it as well. So I think that's what that says to me. Okay. Okay. I didn't really feel super called to Pisces 8, you know, which is the degree after the full moon here. It's just a lot about something going wrong and proclaiming a conscious change, which I suppose I could interpret as like a conscious change to get more in touch with our emotions, you know, but I think the others are what I felt most inspired by. Okay, so I think I'm just going to stop it there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull your card. Your card for this full moon is the King of Swords here, reversed. And at the bottom of the deck, we've got the Seven of Wands reversed. Okay, the King of Swords upright. Swords, mind, mental, kind of reminds me of Virgo a little bit here with the swords. And the king likes to master things, make sure everything's under control, so to speak, and it's reversed here. And sometimes reversals can indicate underdoing something or overdoing something. And of course, the interpretation I'm going to give you here is that some of you are overdoing it. Overdoing the thinking, overdoing the processing, overdoing the strategy here that's going on. Another thought that I have here too is that some of you are overdoing it because you think you're justified in overdoing it. Some of you are overthinking and overworking because you think you're justified of like, I need to work in order to do this. It makes more logical sense. And you need to stop that because some of you may be justifying the wrong things. You know, and that's another part of the quandary of Mercury retrograde, is that Mercury is about our logical mind. And when Mercury goes retrograde, we logically are justifying things that aren't true, that aren't working, aren't seeing clearly here, and need to trust our intuition more. So I think that that's my next thought here with this card, is that like some of you are overworking, overthinking, and you think you're justified, and when really it's not justified. You don't need to do as much as you're doing, and you need to question your assumptions, right? Maybe that's a thought. Some of you need to question your assumptions about what you think you actually need to do or don't need to do here that's going on. The bottom of the deck is the Seven of Wands reversed, which to me can be a lot about feeling attacked. So some of you think you're justified in doing everything that you're doing because you don't want to get attacked. You want to avert disaster, things like that. And I think you need to realize that you're safer than you think. Safer than you think, that you don't need to fight to protect yourself as much as you think you do. You hear that's going on from all of these other things, and that they'll back down. Like all this work you have to do will back down much easier if you, like much easier than you think, if you just make that decision here that's going on. You know, and maybe there's also a thought here around like letting your guard down and opening your heart as well, with it being reversed and with all the flowers here on it, you know, blooming, opening, all of that. So I'm getting maybe there's a sense of that, because resting and relaxing, which is really what is needed here, should not be a hard process where you shut down. You know, resting and relaxing actually allows you to bloom and flower, right, and to open more, especially with the retrogrades in Taurus and things like that. So I think that's another thought here, is that the work and the stuff you have to do for a lot of you is keeping you closed off from yourself, from other people, stuck and uneasy. And when you stop doing stuff and stop justifying this thing that really isn't justified here that's going on, then I think you're going to open up more and bloom and blossom. And you need to realize that you're safer and more protected than you think, and that these things I think are going to back down much more easily here. This work is going to back down much more easily if you just make a decision not to deal with it here that is going on. Okay. Because some of you may be like fighting, you know, this is typically a card of fighting invisible demons, you know. Some of you are saying you're busy, you have stuff to do, you can't back down, you can't do this. But really, if you just realize that you're like, it's just a perception and stop doing things, then like everything would go away, you know, and get better. So getting a sense there to stop overworking and justifying it and realize that you're safer and more protected than you think to be at ease, and will work out much better. And I think that's all I'm going to say there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that was helpful for you. I hope that you all do have a good full moon, the best that you can here, and I will talk to you on the next video.